is just coming up to the start of the Holme Moss hill climb. Now there's a bit of a dip here where you're going down. You can see the gradients going down a little bit, and then there's a sharp left-hand turn. You go over a little bridge, and that's the start of the actual Holme Moss segment. Now the thing is, you've already been climbing for quite a long time by the time you get to this point. You've probably been climbing for 15 minutes or so or more up from Holmfirth. So this is just the last bit of the climb. But I think this is generally accepted to be, this is the place where you do the Holme Moss hill climb proper. And it just starts there's a bit of a sharp section right at the start. But if you carry that speed through the dip, you can take off the worst of that sharp right-hand turn. And then you're straight into the continuing gradient. Now normally, for most of the rest of this climb, it varies just a couple of percent either way, from 10%. So I find this climb a little bit easier to pace, because it's a fairly constant gradient. So you can kind of pace yourself quite steadily. You don't have to be adjusting your cadence and effort levels as you would if it was a really steep climb and then with varying gradients in between. You just pace yourself to the top from this point. Now, I'm doing quite high cadences through this, but you can still put a reasonable amount of power down even at higher cadences. And I do find that the longer you go on in higher efforts, the easier it is on your legs if you keep the cadence a little bit higher. Now there's a fine line between too much, and I think I probably may have come quite close to overdoing it at times there. It's getting 100 RPM, possibly even higher sometimes, and that's probably about the limit for me. But I just find it preserves the legs a little bit more, But everybody's different. Now it might just be partly me. I mean, I'm 6'3". And it might just be that suits me, and it isn't going to suit everybody else. But you just try and keep a steady effort here, because it is a fairly long climb here. You don't want to overdo it in the early sections. I say long climb, but that's only by the local standards of the area. Now this is just, as I say, out of Holmfirth. And quite a lot of the climbs in the area tend to be quite short, sharp type hills with quite high gradients. Now this is different in that it's a little bit longer, but the gradient tends to be less extreme and more constant. So that makes it quite an enjoyable climb. It does add a little bit of variety to the area, because it is quite well known for a lot of hilly ascents, but most of them are fairly, as I say, quite short, quite steep, and they tend to wear the legs out if you're out on a whole day climb. This is just something that isn't quite such a sting in the gradient. You just need to take it very steadily, but it's very achievable for anyone of any level whatsoever, well worth having a crack at. And the views at the top are something else. You can see for miles. Now this left-hand turn coming up is the steepest part of the climb, but it still only racks up to maybe 14% or so it's not that bad. It's just a couple of percent more than the rest of the climb, so you just need to take it steady, keep at your own pace, don't get too carried away going up here. Now I've kept a little bit further over to the middle of the road, obviously checking to make sure that there's nobody behind you before you do that. And some people just get out of the saddle and power their way through it. So either way is fine, but just bear in mind that you've got a bit more of the climb to go, so you don't want to burn your legs just too soon. By the way, I've got no idea why my left finger is sticking out like that. I honestly wasn't giving the finger to all those cars. I didn't even realise it was like that until I just watched the video. And I don't think I normally do that. I just don't know what the reason for it was. So there you go. It is what it is. Now, the other thing to bear in mind about this climb is it's into the prevailing winds. And as you turn that corner, it tends to get a little bit more exposed. So you tend to feel the effort a little bit more. And as you get higher, obviously that effect tends to increase. The prevailing winds would be probably southwesterly. So on any given average day, you're probably going to have a bit of a headwind going up here. And this is the point where you're going to start feeling it a little bit more. So just try and bear that in mind for your judgment of your pacing. Now, the other thing about this climb is it's a fairly iconic climb for the area. So you're usually going to see a couple of other bikers, which is always good because, you know, the more bikers there are on the road, the more biker aware the cars are. So they tend to be fairly used to seeing bikers coming up and down here, which helps. You do feel that it's a fairly safe climb to go up because there's such a presence of cyclists on this. And that's good for everyone, you know. And you can always say hello to everybody on the top as well and on the way down, and a bit of a nod or a wave to everybody always is a good thing. Right, now I'm starting to hit the cloud level at this point on this particular day, but it's around about here that the gradient does start shallowing out a little bit. Just a couple of percent, but enough so that you can feel it will start feeling like you're getting near the top at this stage. You have got a bit to go. There was a quarter of a mile marker on the road, just going past on the video, so you've still got a little bit more, but at least there is something there to tell you how far you've got. And when this starts shelving out a little bit, you're not far off. As I say, you're just less than a quarter of a mile now. And there is a car park entrance just coming up fairly soon. It's a bit hard to see now, obviously, because the cloud levels are fairly low, but I think it was around about this point I got out of the saddle and just gave it a bit more effort, because I know that it's not that far. So again, it helps that there's the car park entrance, just knowing that gradient's helping you a little bit, and then you're not far off the top, so it just helps for your pacing effort, you know. Right, there's the 200-yard marker, so you really are getting there now. On a normal day, you'd probably be able to see the Holme Moss summit sign, but it's just coming up out of the murk there now. And once you get there, there's actually a line in the road that tells you the highest point, but you'll feel it there anyway. And then that's it. You've done your Holme Moss hill climb.